Alrighty, welcome to the 85th edition of Before the Battle. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. I am joined, as always, by the magnificent Jed Meshew from the award-winning MMA fighting. Wesley Riddle, I think for about the 80th time in a row, is not here. Last week he was doing some school thing, trying to get his big master's degree. He's not actually getting that, but let's pretend he is because he's dedicating his entire life to it. This week he has some sort of choir thing. He's traveling the world, just Virginia, and singing. So that's fun. Good luck to Wes, but man, the guy's just ducking the show each and every week, Jed, now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but so it goes. He's not missing much of a card this time. So
No. I'm sure he's hardcore of a fan enough. He'll somehow catch this card, which I don't blame him though if he isn't able to. This, UFC Fight Night 118 goes down from Donsk, Poland this weekend, and we have Cerrone and Darren Till. Interesting headliner in the welterweight division, but there's not a lot of depth here. There's not a lot of good fighters on this card. There's not a lot of notables. Not too much to say about a lot of these fights. We'll, of course, get to that. But first, and we also have Gegard Mousasi versus Alexander Shlemenko at Bellator 185 tomorrow night. So that's actually a fight worth talking about. We'll talk about that after this glorious UFC card. But before any of that, let's go back 2 weeks. We have been off for a little bit. UFC 216, Tony Ferguson getting the interim lightweight title with a third-round win over Kevin the Motown Phenom Lee. Let's get to the results for the show, our picks, our draftings, and our bonuses. What do you got for us, Jed?
Well, our results from last time are pretty underwhelming. As some of you may remember, a lot of tumult happened right before the event started. We lost one of the fights, the Walt Harris Mark Godbeer fight, went down in flames, and Fabricio Verdum then faced Walt Harris because Derek Lewis pulled out, and so then two bouts got upended, which kind of threw a wrench in some of the things that went on. As far as bouts that we all predicted, there were 8 of those. All of us went 4-4. All of us got one right that the other 2 went the other way on, and all of us missed extra one as well there. It was just an interesting little evening. And along the same lines, the DraftKings results, a little bit skewed here. Wes Riddle wins with a score of 370 points. Nicholas, you come in last with a score of 265 points. But if you'll remember, all 3 of us had Walt Harris on our teams, so all of us got 0 points from Walt Harris.
That's good.
And I think none of us would have put Walt Harris on our team had we known that Fabricio Verdum was the man he was facing. Similarly,
Walt Harris went from a pretty good DraftKings player, a guy who probably was going to rack up a lot of points against Godbeer, to probably the worst guy you could put on your team, despite his price.
Exactly. And I, in particular, took a shot. I also had Derek Lewis on my team. Derek Lewis obviously did not even compete, so that really hurt me. Wes ended up winning basically by the virtue of the fact that he had Fabricio Verdum, and he had Lando Venata and Cody Stamann, and then he also had Tony Ferguson, Evan Dunham. So his team got the least upset by the changes that happened, and he won as a result. I think we could put a big asterisk by that win in my opinion. So many things happened. I think that counts. As far as bonuses, nobody did well in bonuses. We got the fight of the night was obviously Lando Venata versus Bobby Green. Hell of a fight in the lightweight division. That almost wasn't even that, but Lando's really dumb and need a guy legally. That was cool. None of us predicted that. Wes had Darius Dunham. You and I were both on Ferguson and Lee for Fight Night. Good fight as well. I don't feel terrible about the pick. I personally, for performances, once again, really got screwed by the heavyweight shift around. I had Derek Lewis and Walt Harris as my performance bonuses. Obviously, again, Lewis didn't compete, and Walt Harris I would not have picked for a performance bonus had I known he was going to be facing off against Fabricio Verdum. Wes had Ferguson and Lando, so that didn't turn up any glory for him because your performance bonus winners were Demetrius Johnson, obviously. for kicking the ever-loving shit out of Raymond Borg, and John Moraga for his first-round upset KO, which was sensational. And you, Nicholas, actually were the one person to snatch victory here in the performance bonuses.
As per usual.
You had Demetrius. You've been on a nice little run here. You had Demetrius Johnson picking up a performance bonus. You were correct. You also had Walt Harris. Again, you sort of got screwed a little bit in that regard, but you win the performance bonuses. We all tied on the picks. And Wes wins a very asterisk-laden DraftKings contest. That is our results from last time. This time, we don't even have Wes picking with us, though. He has not sent in any picks or anything. So it's just you and me, mano a mano, heads up for all the marbles.
He is entirely missing in action. Sometimes he's not here. Perhaps he can't find, a computer or a webcam or what have you, maybe a microphone, but now he's just probably out of Wi-Fi or something like that. Hopefully he does send them in just so we can count them, and so, we can let him know he legitimately came up short instead of just not sending them in and default or losing by default. But
that's coming up short to me. It's a loss. A loss is a loss is a loss. Sure. I'll take the wins any way I get them.
I mean, the fact is he's taking L's all the time now by not being here. So, Wes, get back. We kind of miss you. You should be back here. Hopefully next week. What do we got next week? I know we got UFC till the end of the year pretty much. Next week we have
not pretty much. We have UFCs every single
apparently
week.
The Christmas weekend.
Except for Christmas week. But the first week of December we have a double event. Right, so we are averaging one event.
Oh, so Brunson Machida. Okay, that's going to be fun next week. That's actually a good card. So,
Brunson Machida, look, I'm not going to be honest. Brunson Machida is a fine card in many ways.
It's a lot better than the one we're about to talk about.
Yeah, partly because they're going to Brazil, so they will load it with Brazilian fighters, and so you're going to get a higher quality of competitor anyway. But really, we're just spinning our wheels till 217. That's all anybody's doing right now.
Yeah, it's true. Anyways, let's get on to UFC Fight Night 118. We go down from Dansk, Poland, in tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Saturday. It is an early card. It starts at 11:30 a.m. 8:30 ET, Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on UFC Fight Pass. Or if you are a fantastic Canadian like myself, the main card will be televised on the Fight Network. And I mean, I'm sure it's televised elsewhere. I'm not going to try and name all of that. There's too many countries on this planet. Let us start with the first fight of the night. Actually, one of the better fights on this entire card. I mean, if we're going to get down and really pick out fights that sort of matter, there's about 4 or 5 that you can pick out. This, to me, is one of them. We got featherweights Felipe Ronches taking on Josh Emmett. Both guys have been doing pretty well. Emmett is coming off loss, but he started out his UFC career last year 2-0. He's dropping down from the lightweight division while Ronches is moving up. So, you would think we have a size advantage to Emmett, but surprisingly, Ronches still actually has a 3-inch reach advantage. Height is the same. So the change of weight class for both men doesn't seem to matter that much, although Emmett seems to be, he's a strong fighter, and I would suspect he has the strength here over Ronches. Nonetheless, who do you like stylistically? Who walks away the victor?
I had no idea this was a featherweight fight until you just said that. No idea. Oh, wow, that was wild. Sorry, the football game's on in the background. I had no clue this was a featherweight fight. That is something different. Felipe Ronches is a little bit taller, maybe has a little bit of a reach, but Josh Emmett's going to be the bigger dude in there. Josh Emmett is built like a brick shit house, really thickly muscled dude. You're right. I think he's definitely going to have the strength advantage. More so than that, I think he's really just got a lot of advantages going on here. I think he can wrestle with Ronches if he wants to, but I think he can just work a volume attack on the feet. Ronches doesn't throw that often. He throws, but not as much as Emmett. And I really just think this is Emmett all day. I think it's pretty straightforward affair. Give me Emmett by decision. Ronches is a tough dude. He's never been stopped to my knowledge. And Emmett's not finisher, so I think it goes the full 15. But yeah, give me Emmett on points.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Giving Josh Emmett here by unanimous decision. I think he's a better fighter. If you go a bit deeper, the guy is pretty well rounded. Aranches, he doesn't have a ton on the feet. Emmett is a pretty good striker. He doesn't have brutal one punch knockout power, but he puts his combos together pretty well. He has a bit of a jab, if I recall correctly. He's decent, and the wrestling, I think he's pretty good there as well. I think this probably stays standing unless Aranches does look to close the distance, which might be a good path to victory for him. I'm just looking at Ronches, his last few fights. So he's coming off that split to Eric Perez. He is coming off a bit of a layoff. November 5th, 2016 was his last fight, while Emmett got in there in just April. So not too big of a layoff there. But yeah, Ronches really pretty good on the mat. His last two victories were both by submission. Jared Sanders, Yves Javoin in 2016 and 2015, respectively. I like Emmett here. I like him on the feet for the most part, and I think he might be able to grind out on Ranch as well if he gets on top and watches and make sure he's not in danger of a submission. I think he'll be good. So I like Josh Emmett here by unanimous decision. Next up, we got Lena Landsberg taking on Aspen Ladd. Landsberg is 1-1 at the UFC. Ladd has yet to make her debut. She was supposed to fight Jessica Eye this past summer. The fight fell apart just due to during Fight Week. Ladd fell ill. I think that is what happened. Yes, that is. Who do you like here at 135 in the women's bantamweight division?
Give me Aspen Ladd on points here. I think Lena Landsberg, Aspen Ladd's 22 and showing some promise in her career. Lena Landsberg, I think, is 35. Never really accomplished a ton in the sport, and I think her best days are beyond her in general. I don't. It's not to discount her potential. Aspen Ladd is still, or her potential to win the fight. Aspen Ladd is still really raw, still really young. Finds herself in clinches a lot, and I don't think she's particularly good in the clinch. I think that she's getting better, but I think she can be bullied, and I expect Lena Landsberg to use the clinch to bully her early. But if you watch Lena Landsberg's last fight, she was in the clinch early. She won like the first round against Pudilova, really. But the second round got a lot closer, and as the fight went on, you saw that Pudilova was able to navigate that better. And by the third round, she started just putting the work to Landsberg with combinations on the feet. That's something Aspen Ladd does pretty well. She does a lot of volume, pressures pretty well, and I just expect that youth, that athleticism, aggression to carry the day here. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if Landsberg won, but you just got to side with the younger horse here. Give me Aspen Ladd on points.
I have very little else to add. Actually, probably nothing. I like Aspen Ladd here by decision as well, keeping it boring, picking exactly what you're picking. Going by what we're predicting, not going to be a super great start to the show, to this event, but nonetheless, I like Aspen Ladd here. She's younger. She has the undefeated record. Landsberg has shown a little bit. She survived 7 minutes or so against Chris Cyborg. That kind of counts for something. She did get beaten to a pulp, so doesn't mean a whole lot. She's tough. We can give her that. Ladd, she's pretty aggressive on the feet. I'm interested to see what she brings to the table. I'm not sure she'll ever be anything special. She's still pretty raw, but she's younger. And the betting what are they called? The betting lines makers know more than I do, and they favor Ladd. So give me Aspen Ladd by decision. Next up, we got newcomer Salim Touhari, who stepped up on short notice, taking on Warley Avas, who's not a top 15 welterweight, but when he is on, he is pretty damn good. I don't know the odds off the top of my head because this is a new fight, but I would imagine Alves is pretty significantly favored here. Do you agree with that? And do you like Alves here, or do you like the upset?
I don't know what you said. You got a little sketchy there. The odds have Alves at -300 last I checked. I don't know a goddamn thing about whoever the fuck this guy is, Salim Touahri. And so give me Warley Alves because he's a good fighter and he's fighting a dude on short notice. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. Warley Alves all day.
Yes, I like Warley Alves here as well. Know absolutely nothing about his new opponent, Salim Touahari, but Warley Alves is good enough. He's a pretty decent fighter. He has that submission win over Colby Covington, and with Covington's rise in the division, that looks better and better each and every day. He fell short against Barberena, but so that's really the biggest knock I would say on his record. Might have been his only loss in the UFC lately. He also lost to Kamaru Usman, so he's on a bit of a skid. I do remember that fight. So he's been out for a little while too. Yeah, I mean, you got to go Warley Alves here again. Don't know much about anything about his opponent, but opponent stepping up in Poland. He's Polish. Not always a good sign just because they look on the local talent, get what they can find on such short notice. He's 10-1. 6 of his 10 pro victories have been by knockout, so he maybe will come and bang a little bit. That could make for an interesting fight, but I expect an Alves stoppage here. Next up, we got one of the better fights on the card, Artem Lobov, the Russian Hammer, taking on Andre Touchy Fili. Pretty fun fight in the featherweight division. Who do you like here?
I like Andre Fili here. I have a healthy amount of respect for Artem Lobov's counter game. I think he gets a lot of shit and that he's not a bad fighter. But Andre Fili is a way better athlete here. And Artem Lobov has tiny T-Rex arms. And Andre Fili is going to have like a legitimate, I don't even think this is hyperbolic. I believe he has 10 inches of reach advantage here. Look, Andre Fili is a guy, he's a mercurial guy at the best of times. He could absolutely just like come in here and lunge in a bunch and just get pieced up with counters all night. But I just can't believe that that's the most likely outcome here. Seems like he is going to stick on the outside, use his length, kick a lot, use a lot of kicks. And this fight would be a pretty solid weapon for him. And wrestle. I think he can wrestle Artem Lobov. It's not like Artem Lobov is some type of elite defensive wrestler. And the gulf between them physically, athletically is just so dramatic. Maybe I'm just like the last guy on the Andre Fili. This guy has the potential to be a top 10, featherweight if he just gets his shit together. But it's hard for me to get away from that. One of these days, I believe he's going to put it together and not do really dumb things in the cage that get him in trouble. And I think that it seems like this is a tailor-made opportunity for him to not screw up such an obvious fight in his favor. So give me Andre Fili on points. I won't be super surprised if Artem Lobov pulls it off, though.
Yeah, Andre Fili is so strange because I thought, the Hawkman Diaz win, I thought, okay, finally he's pulled it all together. Finally he's a top 15 featherweight. When he beat Diaz about a year ago, Diaz at the time was a top 15 featherweight. And I think Fili might have debuted in the rankings, or they just sent Diaz out of it. But that is when I thought, okay, finally Andre Fili has lived up to the expectations. The guy is just going upwards from here, and then he takes, a big break, becomes a free agent, finally signs with the UFC again, then fights Calvin Kattar, a relatively unknown newcomer. He's tough, and he's, a vet, but
he was a bad matchup for Fili. Which is part of the thing that gives me pause here. Kattar was also a good counterpuncher, but he's a much better defensive wrestler than Artem Lobov is. And so I knew that Kattar was at least a dangerous opponent for Andre Fili. But, you're right. It's just Andre Fili being a fuck up sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Andre Fili was a big favorite, and Calvin Kattar goes out there and 27 him in his debut. No one saw that coming. So, Artem Lobov could win. He shouldn't win, and I don't think he's going to, but he does have a chance. The odds aren't crazy because of that reason. I like Andre Fili here. I like him by decision. The guy has a 9-inch reach advantage, to be exact. His striking is getting better, and he should be able to light Artem Lobov up on the feet. I suspect Lobov will struggle quite a bit on the feet. He's a decent striker. He's getting better, and Artem Lobov at one point, when he was on a bit of a skid in the UFC earlier, about a year or so ago, I literally thought he was the worst fighter on the roster, and now he's actually won a couple Went the distance with Cub, 25 minutes, not terrible outing. He's better than we all thought, I think, but I don't think he's good enough to get past Fili. Fili, as you said, also has wrestling. He could look to take Lobov down as well. That is an option. I like Andre Fili here by decision, but I think this is a closer fight, and Lobov is cheap on DraftKings, so that just might be a sneak peek of where or how I'm going to lose this weekend in DraftKings. Next up, we got Smiling Sam Alvey stepping up on short notice against the injured Trevor Smith. He is fighting newcomer Ramazan Emeev, who I have heard a lot of great things about, and who is favored here, I believe, in this fight. Very close odds, but I think Emeev is the favorite. Do you like the newcomer, or do you think Smiling Sam Alvey walks away with yet another W?
Yeah, give me Ramzan Amiev. I think it's a fairly close fight, if we're being honest. Sam Alvey excels at making fights kind of really close, and it's his style. He slows fights down to a crawl and then works a very one-punch, counter-punch game on people. I don't think that's going to play all that well against Imiev. Imiev works pretty straightforward boxing on the feet and just walks his way into the clinch. That's sort of the hallmark of his game. He's got skills everywhere, but he's going to box behind a jab, a double jab, jab hook, bully his way into the clinch, and then start working from there. I don't think Alvey's going to be able to dissuade him from coming forward, and Alvey's game really relies on either landing the counter punch that knocks you out or landing enough good counter punches that it kind of makes you stop pressuring him, because he does not throw a lot of volume at all. And I don't think he's going to be able to disincentivize Imiev from coming forward. The X factor here being, especially that makes me even more so in Imiev's corner, is Alvey coming in on short notice, and the fact that he's had to cut like 35 pounds in the last like week and a half or maybe this week. I don't remember exactly. I just know he's got a bad weight cut still ahead of him because he'll be weighing in soon. And that just doesn't make me feel all that confident about picking him. So give me Ramzan Imiev by decision.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sam Alvey as a fighter. He can be frustrating to watch, but he's quite, he has, a really good, cool attitude, and the guy's, his personality is really fun to watch. But I got to go with the newcomer. I admittedly don't know much about him, but I've heard good things. I've heard he's decent and that he should be able to beat a guy like Sam Alvey. I know Emeev has beat pretty higher level Russian 185ers. Tokov, I think, is one guy he's beat, and he's fairly thought of fairly highly as well. So I'm going to go Emeev. I think this will be a pretty frustrating fight. I think Emeev is going to land the odd leg kick. I think he's going to keep this, well, it's certainly on the feet, but, sort of pop a jab and make sure to stay out of any danger, any hard shots from Alvey. I think this will not be a super fun fight. Salvi or Sam Alvey could pull it off, of course. If he lands a bomb, then sure, of course, but, the guy just doesn't throw enough. When you go to a split with Rashad Evans in 2017, that sort of says something about your output yourself. I like Emeev here. Not super confident. Wouldn't be surprised if the smiling one pulls it off, but give me Emeev by decision. Next up, we got Damian Stasiak taking on Brian Kelleher in the bantamweight division. Jed, you like Webster or Boom?
I don't have a fucking clue, man. Damian Stasiak's grappling game gives me a lot of pause about picking Brian Keller here. I think this is a really evenly matched fight. Kelleher's win in the UFC was that upset of Yuri Alcantara, and really it was Alcantara shot in, and Kelleher took advantage. He jumped on a quick guillotine, clearly has hella squeeze and technique. But then Marlon Cheeto Vera took him to school on the floor. I don't know if you remember that fight, but Cheeto got up against the fence, got that over-under Kimura grip, and then ended up rolling through that. You saw Kelleher defend and keep rolling, but Cheeto just kept turning on the corner with him and kept following and staying ahead, and eventually ended up with a full-on armbar that tapped Kelleher quickly. And Stasiak's a good grappler, man. He's a BJJ brown belt. We've seen him tap out some quality opposition, and it's tough because I think that maybe on the feet Kelleher he just might throw a little more. Might be a little better, a little more aggressive on the feet. But Stasiak is he locks up chokes. That's what he does. That's sort of the brunt of his career. Granted, against some not like great opposition in general, but his UFC career still. He's got 2 submissions already. I could see this fight going either way. Straight real coin flip for me. I'm gonna pick Stasiak just because of the submission threat that I think he poses, and because I saw Chito Vera, who's not like a particularly well known as a grappler, get the better of him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kelleher can work takedowns or just keep it on the feet and kind of outpoint Stasiak. So give me Stasiak by submission, also because I've picked 5 decisions so far. So yeah, give me Stasiak by submission later in the let's do second round submission. I won't be surprised if Kelleher wins.
Well, we finally disagree. Finally, some disagreement and some interest. I guess you could say barely, but of course, the first time we disagree is on this wonderful fight that is so meaningful in the bantamweight division. I like Brian Kelleher here. Not a whole lot. Stasiak is, he has a funky ground game. You look at him and you don't, think he's a fantastic grappler, but he can lock in his fair share of chokes on the ground. He got decision to Pedro Munoz. A lot of people get tapped out. He tapped out Davey Grant last year. Philip Pajek, he won by submission. The guy's pretty good. Kelleher, I like. I like as a fighter. I think he's not bad. I think he got caught by Chito Vera. I would pick Chito Vera if they fight again. I think, Vera can be underrated at times, but I think that was a weird submission. Of course, that's something not a lot of fighters get caught on or caught in, and perhaps that says something about Kelleher's ground game or ground defense, but that's sort of a wait and see sort of thing. This guy tapped out to Yuri Alcantara, so it's kind of strange, tapping out someone like Alcantara and then getting tapped out by Chito Vera, but
he guillotined Alcantara. A guillotine is not the same thing as like a tapping somebody. I firmly believe that.
Well, the guy, Alcantara tapped, and that, I consider.
I know, but he didn't get him in a grappling exchange. Alcantara shot in and he grabbed his neck. Like, it's not like he hustled him on the floor. They were on the floor for about 2 seconds total.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Officially, Kelleher got the submission, but does that, that's, it's the same thing in a lot of fights. I mean, just because the guy knocked someone out doesn't always mean he's a better striker.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so that's why you can't look at an official result and say, oh, this guy's better than this guy. You just don't do that. That's sort of common knowledge at this point if you know much about MMA. Nonetheless, Kelleher did get that win. I like Kelleher. I think he's better on the feet. I think he has that advantage. I think the ground is close. I think Stasiak a little bit, but Keller is decent at getting takedowns. So I think that's an option. Give me Kelleher by decision. Next up, we got a heavyweight fight between Anthony Hamilton, who, if you recall, he stepped away from MMA, or at least suggested he would be retiring. He talked on Twitter. Seemed like this was my last fight. I paraphrased there. So that's all but retiring officially, I would think. But here he is, just a few months later, off a quick knockout loss to the legendary Daniel Spitz. He is taking on newcomer Adam. This is going to be tough. White Zarek. That's really terrible. But nonetheless, Jed, you like Adam? I'm going to go with Adam. That's easy. Or the Freight Train.
Give me White Zarek. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all. Just going to be honest. But yeah, I'm also going to be straight up honest with you. I completely forgot Anthony Hamilton, retired basically, totally spaced on that. I just know that he has been on a terrible losing streak basically since joining the UFC. I don't know what his official UFC record is. I know he's lost 3 or 4 of his last runs in a while.
He was very up and down for a little while, and then now he's lost a few in a row. So it was like win, loss, but now it's loss. So
I remember he beat Daniel Emelianchuk, which was really weird because Daniel Emelianchuk is like not a terrible fighter, and I don't think I would say the same thing about Anthony Hamilton. But I'm looking at his. I just pulled his record up now. He has won. He has won one of his last 5 fights. A basically first punch he threw KO of Damian Grabowski. And he had lost to Shamil Abdurrahimov, Francis Ngannou, Marcel Fortuna, and Daniel Spitz. To be fair, a lot of those people don't suck at fighting that he's lost to. But at the same time, Wagner doesn't suck at fighting either. He's a really big Polish heavyweight who takes people down and punches them in the face or taps them out. Either way, he's going to try and ground you and finish the fight that way. Anthony Hamilton has a fairly good takedown defense, which makes this fight interesting to me. I think Anthony Hamilton even has a collegiate wrestling background. Am I making that up? Do you know that off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
I feel like he does. I could be wrong about that. But it's going to be interesting to see if Weichsrek can get him down. I'm picking Weichsrek basically just as a fade of Anthony Hamilton, who I feel even better about it now that you have reminded me that he essentially retired from MMA, but decided he was going to not do that. That sort of makes me feel like maybe your heart isn't in it. Weichsrek is very clearly kind of committed to this game, on a bit of a good win streak here. If Anthony Hamilton can keep it on the feet, maybe he pieces Weichsrek up. But yeah, Weichsrek is just a really big dude who probably wants to be here a little more than Anthony Hamilton. And Anthony Hamilton hasn't won in a while. So give me Weichsrek. I think he will take him down and probably not get the submission, but probably pound him out from the floor.
Yeah, this is, fade Anthony Hamilton. That's what this fight is, if we're being honest. This isn't, Adam Wojtkiewicz is going to be the next big threat or next big thing in the heavyweight division. I hope he is, because we need more talent. But just knowing that he's a big Polish heavyweight, I mean, chances are he's just sort of another lower tier heavyweight. But you got to fade Anthony Hamilton. Nowadays, he retired. He's back 2 months later. He's got knocked out his last couple of fights, 1-4. Just one win over Grabowski, for one of the worst heavyweights out there. This is fade for Itri. This is what it is. Weiserek, he's decent on the ground. I think he'll turn into a knockout artist or pretend he's a knockout artist for this fight, just because he knows Hamilton probably doesn't want to be there too much. Might be just here for the money. And he doesn't have much of a chin. He gets knocked out pretty easily, as we saw in his last fight. I don't think Daniel Spitz is all that hard of a puncher for the heavyweight division standards. But nonetheless, I do like the newcomer, Adam Weiserek here. I guess his nickname is SIWY. I don't know. I like him. I like him by, I don't know. Let's go first round knockout. Probably pretty sloppy. And if it's ground and pound, won't be too surprised. Last fight on the Fight Pass prelims, we got Marcin Held taking on newcomer Nasrat Hakparsat. Oh, that was terrible. I don't know. Just talk about the fight. Held's a pretty big favorite, but he's also not done nearly as well in the UFC like his fellow Bellator or former Bellator lightweight Will Brooks. But do you like the Polish fighter to get the job done?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you said it right. Held came to the UFC with a bit of hype. He's lost 3. Granted, one of those was a bullshit decision. One
was a huge come from behind knockout.
Yeah, that's true. I always forget that he was actually tooling up Hadzovic before.
That's a situation where we talked about earlier. Just a result doesn't mean you're a better fighter.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he was tooling up Hadzovic before that ferocious knee. But he's facing a guy who doesn't who the fuck is Nasrat Hakparast, sorry. He hasn't fought anybody. He's fought on the German regional scene. This is maybe the largest possible step up in competition that is justifiable. This guy, Hakparast, is not going to get a fight against, Kevin Lee or some shit. But, so jumping up in competition to fight Marcin Held, who's still probably a top 20 light world, somewhere in the conversation. this is a squash match. This is them just throwing Held a softball because they invested in him, and that hasn't been paying dividends at the moment. The one thing going for Haqparast is he is apparently a guy who works leg locks a lot. That is a specialty of Held, but frankly, unless he is secretly like an ADCC guy, like champion that we don't know about, he's not going to be rolling. He's not going to be rolling leg lock games with Marcin Held. You don't want to play leg lock games with Marcin Held unless you are really, really fucking good at it. So that might end up actually being a disadvantage for him. Give me Marcin Held. Probably gets a submission, and gets his first win in the UFC.
All righty, I'm gonna agree with you. Give me Marcin Held here by submission. As you said, who is Nasrat, and let's just leave it at that. Held, I know he's had a lot of bad luck. His back is up against the wall here, but I think he does get his first UFC victory. Give me the Polish fighter by submission. Next, we move on to the 4-fight main card, and I have no freaking clue why this is the first opening or the first fight on the main card, but it is. We got Oscar Picciotto, a newcomer. He's taking on Jonathan Wilson in the middleweight division. Johnny Bravo hasn't been looking too hot as of late. Who do you like here?
The reason this is the main fight is Picciotto is a pretty good fighter, and he's a guy that you can invest in. He's a guy who has real talent as far as the middleweight division goes, and has a future potentially. Still a relatively young guy. How old is he? He's like 27, I think. And he's a dude. He comes from a grappling background. He's a BJJ black belt under Robert Drysdale, a really well-respected, well-regarded grappling competitor. He himself is a well-seasoned grappling competitor. He competed at ADCC Worlds a couple of times. He has won several European grappling accolades. Won a couple lower-tier world grappling accolades. This is a dude who can grapple his ass off. I think he's got wins over Vinny Magalish in grappling competition, and that's a big fucking deal. And that's why he's where he is in this card. But his last couple of fights, he has actually scored early knockouts. He's a dude who is best served by taking somebody down, choking them out. But his last two fights, 36-second KO knockout with a kick against Sergio Souza, and a 32-second KO over Jason Radcliffe with a punch. He has natural power in his hands. Whether he is a really good fighter remains to be seen, but he has a ton of potential. Jonathan Wilson is he's overmatched here. If Wilson can keep it on the feet, maybe he's going to be able to outclass Picciotto over the long haul, just because Picciotto isn't still not a striker by trade. But even that's still like Picciotto maybe just comes out and kicks him in the head and he falls over. And we've seen that Wilson is a fairly good defender of takedowns, but I think everything just sways against him here. Picciotto is on the rise and a guy to look forward to, keep your eye on in the division, in the very shallow middleweight division. So give me Picciotto with an early submission, early second round, late first round.
I like Picciotto here as well. I was a guy who sort of liked Johnny Bravo. I thought he could bring more to the table, but that was sort of after his knockout win over Chris Dempsey. Dempsey was never a good fighter, but it was still, it was a victory. It would look nice, quick knockout. It was something. But then he's lost two in a row to Luis Henrique da Silva, who is now on a huge skid, and also Ian Kalaba, who's actually a pretty good fighter. Knowing what I know about Picciotto, adding on to what you said, just hearing about him, seems to be a pretty good fighter. Not a no. He's a hometown or home country guy. I think, when we see it's very interesting when we see fighters, they go away from what they're good at, and that's good. That's good that, they're trying something new. They're becoming more familiar with the striking game and ultimately getting better in the striking game. But sometimes people fall in love with what they're not as good at, and sometimes that costs them. oftentimes we see fighters move away before the UFC, but then once they're in the UFC, they're fighting higher level competition. They return with their trade, as you said. So I suspect Picciotto will look to take this to the mat, maybe after a little bit of mixing it up on the feet. Wilson doesn't have great takedown defense. That's sort of how he fell against Da Silva. He got taken down and he started gassing a little bit, and ultimately Da Silva was able to pound him out on the mat with ground and pound. I think this will go similar. I think Picciotto stops him. Wilson doesn't have a great gas tank. I like Picciotto late. Give me Oscar Picciotto, the newcomer, by, flip a coin, a ground and pound, TKO, or submission. I'll go submission because that's what he does the most. Give me Picciotto.
Definitely go submission. 100%
Give me Picciotto by a third round submission.
100% go submission.
Next up, we got a light heavyweight fight between Jan Blachowicz and Devin Brown Bear Clark. Clark is 2-1 in the UFC. He lost to Alex Nicholson. Doesn't look fantastic. Nicholson's already out of the UFC. That may be because he's not a great fighter and also he's an asshole. But nonetheless, Devin Clark, since that upset knockout in his debut, he's won 2 in a row. Joshua Stansbury, Jay Collier. Nothing fantastic, couple decision wins, not super exciting. Jan Blachowicz, hasn't been doing very well, though. He is coming off a loss to Patrick Cummins. Before that, he lost to Alexander Gustafsson. No shame in that. He looked decent in that fight, but still a loss. He's won 1 in his past 5. 2 wins since 2014 in the UFC. Kind of an interesting fight here, maybe closer than some people think, but what are you thinking? Jan Blachowicz or Clark?
Yeah, Blachowicz needs this fight. He is, like you said, he's won in his last 4, something like that. And he's looked pretty good. He looked fairly good against Pat Cummins. He dinged Cummins up a lot on the feet, but Cummins was able to keep powering through, taking him down, and won the fight. Alex Gustafsson, he was also digging him up on the feet, but Gustafsson took him down and won the fight. And that basically tells you the story of how this fight, of the dynamics of this fight. If you stay kickboxing with Blachowicz, he's probably going to do fairly well or beat you up. Like, he is a talented kickboxer, but he is not a great defender of takedowns. If you can wrestle, you need to use it, and you probably can effectively. And Devin Clark can wrestle. He's not a great wrestler by any stretch of the imagination, but he's significantly younger. He has decent drive on his takedowns, and I think that he can keep it at least competitive enough on the feet to let his wrestling be the difference maker here. It will not surprise me if Blachowicz wins, because Devin Clark this is the best fighter Devin Clark will have ever faced by a pretty wide margin. And Blachowicz has been in there with the best in the world: Jimmy Manuwa, Corey Anderson, Alexander Gustafsson, Patrick Cummins. These losses are all to ranked guys. He knocked out Ilir Latifi. I'm almost talking myself into taking him. But Devin Clark is just so much younger. Blachowicz is probably hit the crest of his career and now going to start being on the decline. And he just can't fucking wrestle. And if you can't wrestle, it's going to be problems. Devin Clark is good enough to take advantage of that. Give me Devin Clark in a razor-close decision.
Yeah, I got to go with the favorite here, the slim favorite in Devin Brown Bear Clark. Not super confident. We've talked about Jan Blachowicz, I think, on this very show. We might have had this discussion on the MMA circus. I don't recall. It all blends together. But we talked about how I didn't really think Blachowicz was any longer UFC caliber. You disagreed, and then we just realized, the light heavyweight division sucks, and that's why he's still around. Ultimately, Devin Clark.
Ultimately, I clearly was established as correct as he went hammer and tongs with Cummins and gave a very good showing against Alexander Gustafsson.
You could be right. I don't know. We don't need to have this discussion. we had it, been there, done, and no more. Devin Clark is the better athlete. He's the better fighter, but I'm not convinced he walks away with the win here. I'm ultimately going to pick Devin Clark, but I think Blachowicz can give him a good fight. Blachowicz is a better striker, if we're being honest. Devin Clark, he likes to grind fights. He's not super exciting. He's a wrestler. As I said, he's athletic, and ultimately he is going to walk away with the win here, but I don't think it'll be easy. Blachowicz has pretty good wrestling defense. I'm sure he was taken down by Gustafsson numerous times in the latter half of that fight, but Gustafsson, when he wants to, he can be a pretty good wrestler. He's one of the best in the division, of course, overall. Blachowicz better on the feet. If he keeps it standing, he has a good chance. He could outpoint Clark, who's kind of inactive on the feet, and maybe he's getting better, but we haven't seen it quite yet. But I like Devin Clark. I think he eventually finds himself on top of Blachowicz. Blachowicz just sort of, I don't know what's with him, but he's losing to Matt Cummins. Not sure he has it anymore. I think he's slowly going down, maybe quickly, and I think his better days are behind him. Devin Clark is just getting started. I think he is getting better. So give me Devin Clark here in a relatively close decision. Next up, we got Karolina Kowalkiewicz, the former UFC strawweight title challenger, taking on newcomer from Invicta FC, Jodie Esquibel, a newcomer who actually is fairly familiar to the average hardcore MMA fan. But she is in for a tough test here. Kowalkiewicz quite clearly is, I guess, the fourth best strawweight on the planet. Ahead of her is Joanna, Jessica Andrade, and Gadea, who have all beat each other, and then beyond that, we have Rose Namajunas, who Kowalkiewicz beat, and strawweight division is kind of weird like that, where everyone has beat each other. But nonetheless, tough outing for Esquibel here. Kowalkiewicz, as deserved, is a big favorite. Who do you like here?
Give me Karolina. I think the top 5 in the division, in the strawweight division, are pretty clear. You name them all. I think Kowalkiewicz is probably 5th. I think if Rose rematched Kowalkiewicz, probably wins that fight now, but not necessarily, because Kowalkiewicz is extraordinarily tough, and that's one thing that she does not get enough credit for because of her appearance and how genial and polite and quiet she is. This is one of the toughest people on the goddamn planet. There's zero quit in her, and she finds ways to win fights despite the fact that maybe she doesn't always have the technical prowess to match her opponents. Jodie Esquibel can make it a fight. The fact that it's a 3-round fight helps Jodie Esquibel a little bit here. But Kowalkiewicz's volume is tremendous and scores enough points. And I really think that what carries the day for her here is her clinch game. I think Jodie Esquibel is going to get stuck in the clinch with her, and I don't think Jodie Esquibel is ready for the hellacious assault that's going to come to her, particularly with knees to the body, elbows, things like that. I love Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I think she's a fantastic fighter, and I think she is going to piece up Jodie Esquibel in a pretty substantial way here. Give me Karolina Kowalkiewicz wide on points, entirely from knees to the body in the clinch.
Yeah, give me Karolina Kowalkiewicz pretty easily here. I think this is a great tune-up fight for her. I feel a little bad for Jodie Esquibel. Was she on Tough? Or I know she was supposed to.
Yeah, she was.
She was on Tough. So
I think she got tapped by Ashley Yoder. I'm not 100. I'll check while you talk.
That sounds right.
I think she got tapped in the first round, or maybe she didn't even make it to the house. I don't remember. She lost a decision to Ashley Yoder.
All right. Well, she's kind of a name, or not a huge name, but we know who she is. She's an Invicta fighter, all of that. She fought Alexa Grasso, didn't she? Or was that fight?
She did. She lost to Alexa Grasso.
Yes. So she's been there. She's done certain good things, but Karolina's on a different level. She's super tough, ridiculously tough. She's good on the clinch. Her knees are great. Elbows decent. Just overall striking game is really, really good. She's crafty. She throws a lot of different strikes, not just your average 1-2, so to speak. I don't really know what Jodie Esquibel can bring to the table that Karolina hasn't seen and if can't deal with. Give me Kowalkiewicz here all day. I like her a lot. The odds are where they should be. Minus 400. We've seen worse. You want to say Kowalkiewicz at minus 700. I still can't, say that's terrible value. I wouldn't bet it, but certainly wouldn't take a stab at the dog, even at, plus 500. Give me Karolina all day. I think, I don't know. I'm thinking she probably stops Jodie Esquibel. I don't know how, although she doesn't win many fights by stoppage, I'll go decision. Next up, we go to the main event of the evening. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, the number 6 welterweight, takes on rising up-and-comer Darren Till. Darren Till, huge step up in competition for him. One that, not a lot of people think he'll be able to deal with and come out successful in. But, Cerrone's on a bit of a skid. He fought a ton. He still fights a lot, but he's lost 2 in a row. 2017 has been very good to him. He got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal and came up short in a pretty close decision to former welterweight champion Ruthless Robbie Lawler in July at UFC 214. Pretty good fight there, of course. Cerrone Till, main event, UFC Fight Night 118, Dansk, Poland. Who do you like?
I mean, Donald Cerrone, but there's one question about this fight. Donald Cerrone is a better fighter than Darren Till, as things speak. The one question is, at some point, Donald Cerrone's activity level, his age, is going to catch up for him. We're going to start seeing the physical decline of Donald Cerrone, and I think that we honestly probably have started to see the physical decline a little bit. Yes. But he has a wealth of skill, a depth of knowledge, just a ton of experience to rely on, and tricks that he can, use to his advantage. I don't think that he's shot fighter by any stretch, but I think he's slowing down. I think he's getting a little less durable. I think all these things are true. And the move up to welterweight has helped mask some of these a little bit because it's a worse division than lightweight. And
he doesn't have to deal with the weight cut.
Sure, I don't believe
I know
that's
you,
the case.
you think
I believe
nothing
that
of
he's
that,
just
but
fighting way shittier people. And so, I don't know. Look at who he fought at welterweight. I love Matt Brown. Matt Brown shot. Rick Story's a fine fighter. Patrick Cote is 100 years old. Alex Oliveira is a welterweight that's sort of a lightweight. But his, look at who he beat. His wins at lightweight were over Benson Henderson, which is kind of a garbage win if we're being honest. But Miles Jury, Eddie Alvarez, those guys are fucking better than Patrick Cote and Rick Story and old ass Matt Brown. That's just, to me, it's pretty obvious that instead of cutting weight, if you're trying to succeed, I agree that fighters shouldn't cut weight to succeed. Not because I have a vendetta against weight cutting. I don't give a shit about weight cutting. I think I'm the only person in MMA who just does not care about this epidemic at all. But I think that you shouldn't cut weight because, as a rule, the heavier division goes, the worse it is. That's not true for flyweight. Bantamweight is a better division than flyweight. Featherweight is, at this point, probably a worse division than bantamweight because bantamweight is awesome right now. But historically, featherweight's been better. Lightweight is the best division, but after lightweight, anything above lightweight, don't cut weight because the higher you go, the worse people you're fighting, the better you'll do if you're a good fighter. And I think that's a lot of Cerrone here. I think Till's a talented young guy. I think Darren Till has also fought fucking nobody. I'm all for this fight. I love prospect versus established veterans. But Darren Till got this fight beating up Bojan Velichkovic, who we established on that UFC 115 Fight Night thing that Bojan's weirdly been my dude. I've backed him in every fucking fight because I don't know. I dig Serbian steel. I think more of Bojan Velichkovic than I think probably anybody else in this space does. And I don't think beating Bojan Velichkovic should get you anywhere in the fucking conversation of fighting a top 8 welterweight in Donald Cerrone. I'm happy for this fight to happen because it's an interesting fight. Maybe Darren Till shows up and shows out, but over 5 rounds, assuming Donald Cerrone doesn't fall off a cliff, and it's not like we're going to see a huge improvement in Darren Till. He's young, and so you can see big jumps, but he also fought last month. This wasn't, I don't know, when was the UFC Fight Night 115? It was actually in September. So he has a
really?
Yeah, he has a quick turnaround here. It's not, September 2nd. Fight Night 115, Bojan Velichkovic. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So that's a quick that was the Struve Volkov fight. But yeah, so this is like, an 8-week turnaround. He's not going to make enormous leaps in that. If this was like, 6 months, I got back in the gym, I worked on some new stuff. This is, I got back in the gym, I tuned some things up, and then I started drilling specific triggers to fight Donald Cerrone. He's not going to look substantially better than he did in that fight. So we're dealing with known quantities at this point. We know the fighter Darren Till is. We just saw him a month ago, and we know who Donald Cerrone is. We've seen him fight a million times over. Cerrone has more volume. Cerrone has a more diverse set of attacks. Cerrone can wrestle a little bit, and he's just great on the ground. Till is a pretty decent defensive wrestler, might be able to stop Cerrone from taking him down, but Cerrone doesn't shoot a lot of takedowns anyway. He mostly hits reactive takedowns when fighters come forward. The real question is, how much can Darren Till slow Cerrone's pace down? Till really thrives on slowing people down and working a counter game, and Cerrone milieu is throwing a ton of volume, working that, and then wearing you down, hitting you with something that hurts, and then finishing you on the mat. I think maybe Darren Till can have some success early. And look, the book's also out on Cerrone. If Darren Till just comes out and immediately starts firing body kicks and punches to the body, then I'm going to feel a little more concerned about the pick, because Cerrone has weak guts. Like, if you hit him in the body, it hurts him. But like, that's just an established fact at this point. But we're talking about Donald Cerrone, who still I think Robbie Lawler is very clearly a physical shell of who he used to be, and Donald Cerrone, but like, he's still a really dangerous dude, and Donald Cerrone still hung in there tight against him. I think Robbie Lawler offers a much more dynamic set of problems than Darren Till does for Donald Cerrone. So yeah, give me Cerrone late stoppage. I think 4th round, 5th round, his volume is going to start piling up, and Darren Till is eventually going to get broken. I mean, look, dude, we're talking about a dude who not that long ago had a decision with Nicholas Dalby, who's, look, not a bad fighter by any stretch. Nicholas Dalby, certainly not a bad fighter, really, but he also lost to fucking Peter Sabata. So we're talking about a dude who, transitive property of fighting, lost to Peter Sabata. That's just not good enough to beat Donald Cerrone. Give me Donald Cerrone with a late stoppage. Championship rounds, I don't think it's in the first 3. I think this would be a decision if it's a 3-round fight, but I think in the championship round, Cerrone will get it done. Submission.
Yeah, I got to go Donald Cerrone here. So the thing with this fight is that, Darren Till, he's good, but he's far from great. I don't think all that highly of Darren Till, for being honest. He's a guy, he should be going out there and stopping guys. He should be, be putting guys away and murking guys. And Bohan Vlick, I mean, he's tough, but
don't you talk shit about Serbian Steel.
Yeah, I guess you're not the right guy to say that to, but I just don't think Darren Till's all that good. I think he has potential. I think he could be good. Tighten up his striking. You can't learn to have more power, but I feel like we always look at Darren Till and think, oh, the guy hits so hard with any strike. He throws, a weird, his jabs are, knockout, one-punch knockout. But no, he doesn't have many knockouts. When was the last time he knocked a guy out? Has he had a knockout win in the UFC? Let's see. Decision. Okay, his debut.
Yeah. Wendell Oliveira.
He May 30th, 2015, he TKO'd Wendell Oliveira in round 2. Okay, fantastic. Since then, he's gone to draw against Dalby and decisioned Yasin Ariari and Bohan Vlichkovic. I mean, come on. I mean, the guy's okay. He has talent. He has a weird style. He has the Muay Thai stance in a way, and he throws elbows, and he's a funky guy, but I ultimately don't think he's all that fantastic. Donald Cerrone, on the other hand, I do think is slowly going down. I think he's going downhill ever so slightly. I think he's hit his physical prime. I think he's slowly leaving that prime. The damage eventually, gets to you, catches up with you. Just so many fights. He's 32-9 and 1 no contest. I've seen the guy fight. This will, I think, be the 15th time I've seen him fight. I mean, that's not a high number for a lot of people. You probably seen him fight, double that almost, but. for me, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there I've seen fight, twice that have been around for a little while. So the guy, it's an understatement to say he fights a lot, and eventually it does catch up. We saw him got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal in January. Robbie Lawler fight was close, but just a skid and slowly he's not going to go on another 8-fight winning streak. He's just not. I don't think, anyways. I mean, he'd have to turn something around, I guess, but he's going to win here. I like Donald Cerrone a lot here. I like Cowboy. He's better on the feet. He's better on the mat. Darren Till needs to get in his face. He needs to do some weird stuff, but if he just comes and jab, maybe a kick, elbow, I mean, he needs to catch Cerrone, I think. But besides that, I'm not so sure how Till gets it done, besides really throwing Cerrone off guard by just running at him almost. I don't know. The odds are close, I think, because Cowboy's on a bit of a skid, but the odds should be a bit wider, I think. I'm pretty confident in Cowboy here. He's had way more experience. He's fought the best of the best. He's fought multiple former champions. He fought for the title at lightweight when RDA was the champion. He's fought Lawler. Masvidal's great. Eddie Alvarez, former champion. He's fought, the best of the best. Darren Till, the best fighter he's fought is Bohan freaking Velishkovich. So no offense, Jed, but I got to go Cowboy Cerrone. Give me Cerrone all day. Never really thought about how. You're going submission. I don't know. Darren Till. He's never been stopped. Well, he's never actually lost a fight. This will be number one. I find it hard to believe that they go 5 rounds. Eventually, I think Cerrone, his wrestling and grappling advantage here, and that's one thing I forgot to mention. He's way better than Till on the mat. Till needs to get the standing to have any chance. Give me Cerrone here by submission. Kind of copying you. I'll go in the, let's say, 3rd round. I think he'll sometimes he starts a little slow, notoriously, but I think he'll find his groove by the 3rd round, just before championship rounds. Give me Donald Cerrone by 3rd round submission, and to get back into the winning column. That does it for UFC Fight Night 118. Let's go down our DraftKings teams under bonuses real quick. Then we'll talk Mousasi, Shlemenko, and that will be it. Bonuses: fight of the night, performances of the night. Who do you got?
My fight of the night, the same thing I do every time, unless I have a really good reason not to, and I don't. Donald Cerrone versus Darren Till, your fight of the evening. 5 rounds is more than 3, which gives it 2 more rounds to be fight of the night-ier. Performance bonuses, like I said, I'm pretty big on Picciotto. I think he's going to take him down, get a submission, or conversely, maybe just throw something and knocks the dude out. So Picciotto is going to get one. And I'm going on Weiserek, basically fading Anthony Hamilton. I think he's going to take Hamilton down, pound him out. I could be convinced away. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually pick Damian Stasiak instead of Weiserek, because taking somebody down and ground and pounding them isn't all that exciting. And I think Stasiak, like I said, I'm picking Stasiak to get a submission. Let's make it fun. Let's make it something new and interesting. Stasiak for the win.
Alrighty, well, fight of the night. I guess the clear choice here is Cerrone Till. I don't think it'll be a fight we're talking about at the end of the year as one of the year's greatest. I think Till brings it just enough, just out of sheer aggression and will to win. I think he brings it enough to make it interesting. Maybe, land a few leg kicks, land a few shots here and there early, but ultimately I think it's one-way traffic, so it's hard to say this is fight of the night, but I don't see anything better. So I think it'll be just good enough.
Escobar is the only other choice that makes any sense, really.
Well, I think that'll be really one-way traffic, so definitely not on that. So fight of the night,
they're going to be throwing hammers at each other, though.
Perhaps.
They're just going to punch each other a ton.
Maybe. Fight of the night, I got Cerrone Till. Performance is kind of a tough one here. Not sure they'll give Cerrone $100,000. Not confident he finishes Till. Let's go. Oh, I don't know. Let's go Weiserek and Worley Alvarez.
Okay. I'm also changing my performance bonus. I'm going to go with Picciotto and held.
All right. All right, DraftKings. Who do you got? I know this is a pretty tough one. Tough lineup this week. A lot of big favorites. A lot of big underdogs. Who do you got?
Honestly, it was a really easy lineup for me once I sat down and did it. I'm not in love with my team, but I have Donald Cerrone. He's $8,500. I think he's going to win. I think one way or the other, you should have one of the main event fighters always in your DraftKings lineup every time, just because 5 rounds is so many rounds for you to get points in. I've got Brown Bear Clark, $8,400. Like I said, I think he's going to be able to score a bunch of takedowns. Takedowns get you a lot of points in DraftKings, so I've got him in his victory over Jan Blachowicz. I have Picciotto. I think he's getting a first-round stoppage, either submission or KO, TKO. So obviously, I'm going to put him on my team. 8,900, the most expensive guy on my squad. I also have Weichzerek, 8,600. Again, we've established that I think he's going to get an early stoppage over Anthony Hamilton. I was unable to work Marcin Held because he cost $9,400. I think it would be an excellent if you can work your team until you feel good. I think Held is very likely to get a stoppage early on. I think it'd be a good inclusion. I could not. I already had a ton of chalk in here, so I had to pick a couple of underdogs. Of course, I'm going to put Damian Stasiak on my team, 7,900. He's an underdog, and I'm picking him to win outright. And I'm picking him to get a submission, so that was going to make my team. And we talked about this guy. We talked about his possible DraftKings inclusion. I've got Artem Lobov. I think he has a chance against Andre Fili. I'm picking Fili. I still feel pretty good about picking Fili, but I would not feel surprised at all if Fili just ran into a bunch of counters from Lobov and got chewed up all night. So Lobov is the straw that stirs the rest of my drink. If he gets an upset, great. Even if he doesn't, I think he can land enough punches to make enough points that it's okay to offset the fact that the rest of my costs are loaded up in guys I think are getting early stoppages.
Well, I almost like your team better. It really comes down to almost to the Stasia Kelleher fight. So I got Donald Cerrone, I got Adam Weiserek, I got Artem Lobov, I got Warley Alves, I got Brian Kelleher. So we go head to head on that one. And my kind of sort of big underdog pick here, along with Artem Lobov, is Jan Blachowicz. We also differ on that one. You go Brown Bear, who I like. I like Devin Clark in this fight. I think he'll grind out a win. But if Blachowicz can keep it standing, he'll probably come out with a win, maybe, if he's lucky. And I think, he was cheap and there was no one else. I only have 100 remaining. So he was 7,800 and I take him out. Okay, I have 7,900. There's no one else there that was more intriguing. So I went with Blachowicz. But the three guys I'm really confident in are Cerrone, Adam Weiserek, and Warley Alves. Whereas your team, run through it one more time.
I've got Cerrone and Weiserek as well. I also have Picciotto, who I'm very confident in. And then Clark, Lobov, and Stasiak. Those are the guys I'm less confident in, but I still think Clark's going to win. I think Lobov is going to lose, but get enough points to make it worth my while. And Stasiak is also a guy that I'm picking to win. I don't feel like super confident. I think your team might beat mine. We've got three of the same. We both have Cerrone, Weichzerek, and Lobov. So it's essentially your Kelleher, Blachowicz, and Alves going up against my Picciotto, Clark, and Stasiak, and I think that's an interesting contest. I think it's fair. I think both teams are competitive with each other.
It is interesting because it comes down to the Clark, Blachowicz, and Kelleher Stasiak fight. Because I think it'll be one apiece because we're both picking. Because I'm picking Keller, you're going Stasiak. So for me, I like Keller, but I don't like Blachowicz. We both like Clark, and then it comes down to who takes home more, really, between Warley Alves and Picciotto, which I don't know. We're looking too much into this, but
I like my team just a little bit because I think Clark.
Stasiak.
I mean, no. Oh, well, in that case, yeah, but I can understand how Stasiak might well lose.
Sure.
But I think Clark is gonna win. And I think he's going to get a lot of points because I think he's going to get several takedowns. And takedowns are such a big point swing. You get 5 points for each takedown if he lands. You can land takedowns very frequently against Blachowicz. I think that gives me maybe a slight edge, but it's a toss-up. I mean, if Kelleher comes out and scores a bunch of takedowns on Stasiak and Stasiak doesn't tap him, it's going to be bad news bears for me. So I like it. I think it's interesting. There's enough similarities, but enough differences to make this a fun little head-to-head, assuming West doesn't get his shit together and get in the game.
Yes, and oftentimes we don't have our differences aren't always going up against each other, so that
Yeah,
makes
I
it
mean,
interesting as well.
we picked all of the same fights with the exception of the Stasiak Kelleher in our picks thing, and I honestly think we even picked all of the same like
No, no, no. You
finishes
mean
too.
Picciotto and Alves are the two different ones?
No, I'm talking about in our picks.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yes.
we are all of our picks are the same except for the
Right.
Stasiak. I have Stasiak, you have Kelleher, and even I didn't take this down, but I think all of our methods of victory are the same too. I think that we are basically in total agreement on this card, except for I'm picking Stasiak because Kelleher's grappling worries me, and you aren't as worried, so you're picking Kelleher, which is
Yeah,
it's a toss up. So
sure.
this DraftKings is more interesting than our picks, is what
Yes,
essentially what I'm saying.
definitely.
Because I also think we're going to pick the same person for the Bellator event. Just throwing that
Yeah,
out.
I don't think we'll segue into that. Bellator 185 going down tomorrow night from Connecticut, I think. So not a super competitive on paper main event. We got former UFC middleweight contender Gegard Mousasi making his debut. Really excited for this. He's taken on former Bellator middleweight champion Alexander Shlemenko, who's been doing some things over in Russia. He's been fighting for M1 Globe a little bit. He's won a number in a row. He's defeated Brandon Halsey in a rematch. Of course, won a piece there. He also defeated another American in Paul Bradley, who also fights for PFL or WSOF, I guess you could say. Mousasi is a big favorite for good reason. I ultimately think the former UFC contender will get the job done. I think most people, if not everybody, agrees with me. The guy might, Mousasi. There was a time we all know this. There was a time when he didn't always show up, but ever since he's grown to be more confident, and we've seen that in and outside the cage when he talks, when he fights, everything. He might just be the best middleweight on the planet.
Tough to say, man. Like it's really. I think he is the most interesting matchup for Robert Whitaker, in many respects. But that fight's
Yeah,
never going to happen now. I mean,
that's a close fight.
he would beat the shit out of Michael Bisping because they're like 12
Yeah, of
dudes,
course.
literally like 12 human beings under the weight of 185 pounds that beat the shit out of Michael Bisping. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sad that he's fighting in Bellator, but what are we going to do?
I guess, you like him over Shlemenko. How do you think he wins?
Yeah, I like him over Shlemenko. I think Shlemenko is actually a really, really good fighter and
Oh, yeah.
extremely underrated. Um, I mean, his losses are the Brendan Hazley loss, which he avenged and was a little flukish. I'm not going to call it a full fluke, but like getting choked out in under a minute that's just things didn't break right for you. And then he got tapped out by Tito Ortiz, who had like 50 pounds on him. And other than that, he hadn't lost since he fought Hector Lombard, back when Hector Lombard was actually good, and went 5 full rounds with him. I mean, it's just a dude who's like, he's been in there. If you go check out Shlemenko's full record, like, that motherfucker has been around. He fought Jersey Landy-Johns, which is wild to think that he fought Jersey Landy-Johns twice. He fought Jacare, got tapped out. Like, this is a dude who's just been Jordan Radiv. Jesus, he fought Jordan Radiv? God damn, I forget how long Shlemenko has been in this damn game, but it's been a minute. And he's a fucking good fighter. He's really experienced. He's weird and different and awesome. I hope he does well against Gegard Mousasi because it would be fun if this fight was interesting. But Gegard Mousasi is at worst like the third best middleweight on the planet, and frankly is like at worst like a top 10 light heavyweight, maybe a top 5 light heavyweight. Like the only people I think I would pick to beat Gegard Mousasi in a fight in middleweight right now are Robert Whitaker, and that's really close. Like that's actually really fucking close. And I would pick Luke Rockhold to beat him, because I can't help but believe that Luke Rockhold is the best middleweight on the planet, even though he frequently fights like he's not the best middleweight on the planet because he doesn't have a fucking chin and can't box for shit. But yeah, I think he's going to beat up Alexander Shlemenko. Shlemenko's not going to get to do weird spinning shit to him. I think, frankly, I expect Gegard to maybe box him a bit and then just take him down and just hustle him on the fucking floor. Gegard Mousasi's top game is outlandish, so he's going to beat the shit out of Alexander Shlemenko. As far as the rest of the card, I don't think we're going to get into breaking it down, I don't want to. All I will say about the rest of this card is it was really good until like 2 weeks ago when everybody left it.
Yep.
And that sucks. Like the Muhammad Lawal, Liam McGarry fight would have been cool. Brendan Ward, David Rickles was going to be a good fight. Neiman Gracie taking on Javi Torres would have been an awesome fight. Now he's facing something called Zach Busia. I don't even know what that is. So, yeah.
Heather Hardy's on the card, but
Heather Hardy's a 1-0 prospect. I don't want Heather Hardy to be on the card. I'm happy for Heather Hardy to be in MMA. I think that's good for the sport. I think she might end up showing some promise in it. I also think that if you are a level of fan that basically I am at this point, which is I watch everything, but anymore, and I don't really want to. And Heather Hardy's regional MMA, so I'm fine for her to be there. She's gonna box up somebody. I don't even know who the fuck she is. Christina Williams hasn't fought ever. That's cool. Like this is just a shit card that used to be a decent one, but it makes sense. Bellator's doing their thing. Good for them. Yeah. I'm ready for us to be done now.
Yes. Again, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Mousasi's going to light up Shlemenko, mostly on the feet. I think it stays standing for the most part if he gets it down. Shlemenko has a good, submission game, but Mousasi's top controller is, as you said, really, really fantastic. Mousasi beats him up, I think. Mousasi, I mean, he just looking at the UFC rankings. Okay, so Whitaker's real close. I don't know. That would have to be, scheduled, and I'd have to think about it longer. I don't know who I would pick right now. Luke Rockhold, I think Mousasi beats him. Yoel Romero, another close one. I would probably favor Mousasi ever so slightly. Jacare, I think he would win in a trilogy. Weidman, I don't think is all that close, although it kind of was when they fought in April. And then from there,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't close at all.
Well, Weidman had a good start.
Weidman won the first round, and then Weidman got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah. So, I guess, yeah. I mean, the fact that the whole controversy thing, I guess our perception of it makes it seem close, but perhaps you're right. And then from there, I mean, again, Gaslam's still a really good fighter, and that's probably the closer fight. If you go down, Anderson Silva, no. Brunson, no. David Branch, no. Uriah Hall, definitely not. And Michael Bisping, I forgot to mention him, but that's kind of obvious. Gegard knocks him out.
Gegard Mousasi beats the ever-living shit out of Michael Bisping.
And I really wish we saw that because that was supposed to happen, and it would have been great. But, all right, that is it. Gegard Mousasi, that's the most intriguing, or the fight. If there's going to be one fight you watch this weekend, make it Bellator main event. The card sucks, but the main event's great. It's not going to be all that competitive, but it still should be fun. Shlemenko is a good fighter. He should give Mousasi at least some sort of a test. Other than that, you got Cerrone Till, and that's about it. But that does it for us. Episode 85, the UFC Donsk and Bellator, I guess Mousasi Shlemenko edition of the show is in the books. Thank you guys for watching. As always, Jed, remind everybody where they can find you on social media, where they can find your mixed martial arts coverage, and anything else you got to plug.
Follow me on Twitter at Jed K. Meshew. Other than that, my writing's at MMAfighting.com. Give it a peep.
Alrighty, you guys can find me on Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find my other podcast. It is called The MMA Circus. I host it each and every weekend with Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, and it's been so long since Jed was on it as a co-host. I can't even say I host a part-time with Jed.
It's awesome.
It's been at least a month or two.
Well over.
I guess 2 months because Andrew got married and you haven't been on since. So got married in early September. So there you go. Almost 3 months. At least you do this show. That's fun. That's enough Jed Meshew I need in my life every week. You can go check that out. Episode 133. We recorded live on this very YouTube channel this past Tuesday evening. We talked about both Mousasi Shlemenko, the Donsk card, and the Winnipeg editions, Lawler, Dos Anjos, etc., etc. Touched on Ian McCall, Risen a little bit. I just launched a new podcast. Go check it out. It is called Beyond Combat. Really stoked about this one. It's sort of just a side project. I'm going to be doing it every 2 weeks, so not as often as before the battle or the circus. But what it is I'm having on MMA personalities, pundits, whatever you want to call them, fighters, probably not very often at all, but more likely journalists and on occasion maybe just an average fan who have an interesting hobby or career, and we talk about it. So it's like kind of bringing together MMA and like the outside world. Sometimes talking just about MMA only gets a little tiring. So I wanted to change things up, and it was actually pretty refreshing. It was pretty fun. Did episode 1 last night of Beyond Combat. Had my good friend from MMAsucker.com, the founder of the site, Jeremy Brand. We talked about working with special needs kids. It was quite the cool conversation. I had a lot of fun. Go check it out. It is on this YouTube channel exclusively. Beyond Combat episode 1. Go check it out. Thank you guys for watching. That is all I have. We appreciate it. Enjoy the fights on Saturday. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Love you guys.